All right, y'all. Today we're going to have a lot of fun and dive into a conversation around hormones and fasting. Today we're going to be focusing on two hormones specifically, and those two hormones are going to be leptin and ghrelin. All right, and we'll talk a little bit about HGH as well, too, human growth hormone, and how that's impacted by fasting. But the bulk of the conversation today is going to be around the first two. So I'll just go ahead and dive right in here, you guys. Leptin is a hormone that is responsible for reducing your hunger. So think of leptin as kind of like the I'm full hormone. When it starts to pump up in levels, you are someone who is going to stop eating as much because you're just simply not as hungry anymore. So it is actually made within your fat cells and it's released by them in response to eating food. So whenever you eat a meal, leptin is released from your fat cells and is sent to your hypothalamus, which then signals to your whole body that you're full and you need to stop eating. So those fat cells are actually very beneficial for something here. So when we want to look at this, we want to ask this important question of why is leptin important? Because it starts to get an idea of even why we're having this conversation here today. So the very first thing is without leptin, our bodies would constantly crave more food even after eating and continue to want to eat even after we should normally be satisfied. So very low leptin levels in the body cause increased hunger and actually a decreased metabolism because you're just going to keep eating and eating and eating and eating, right? And then higher levels of leptin cause decreased hunger and increased metabolic rate because you're not going to be eating as much. You'll burn all of that really, really well. Now, there's something that's really common in a lot of people's, and this is called leptin resistance. So, this is caused by having very, very high leptin levels, and your body starts to create so much leptin, kind of similar to how insulin resistance works, to where you end up, just eating a lot of foods that cause an insulin spike in the body, carbs, sugars, to eventually your body's like, hey, I'm just not going to even respond to that insulin that's coming out. So, very similarly, we talked about how having higher leptin levels is good initially, but if you get too high, your body will create so much of it that eventually your body just becomes numb to leptin's signal for stop eating. So most people who are obese or overweight are leptin resistant, especially, the case here, if you have a lot of belly fat, you're likely leptin resistant in one way or fashion. So being leptin resistant means your body never gets the hormonal response needed to make you stop eating once full. So this is really common if you feel like you're a vacuum cleaner in the evenings and you just can't stop. You got to get 2 or 3 plates of food. This is a conversation that might be relevant for you. Leptin is also closely related to the thyroid. So the thyroid doesn't work as well anymore and starts to produce low levels of hormones if you are leptin resistant. So here's a few ways that we can actually fight leptin resistance. And that's going to be building more muscle and having more lean muscle mass on your body. So this is exercise, avoiding high inflammatory foods like processed foods, sugars, eating more healthy fats, eating more healthy fiber, better quality of sleep, reduced carbohydrate intake specifically from sugar, and a healthy protein intake. But one thing that's really cool here is intermittent fasting specifically impacts your leptin levels in an awesome way. So the larger your fat cells are, the more leptin they release. Since fasting and technically just being in a calorie deficit actually shrinks your fat stores. So one interesting thing is you don't actually ever lose fat cells. They just end up shrinking in size whenever you lose weight. So this is why, leptin, it's important to have those fat cells because leptin has to be released from there and so much more too. So since fasting in a calorie deficit shrinks your fat stores, it's going to help you to decrease your leptin levels and improve your overall insulin resistance as well too. So leptin's really important here, guys, and fasting helps you to actually get full at the right time. When we're eating all day long, you don't often know if you're full or not, or you're constantly eating past fullness. So intermittent fasting, by getting used to what it's like to not have food in the body, you start to become more sensitive to when food actually enters your body. And it just makes your ability to stop once you're full actually happen. So now the next conversation I want to have is around the hormone ghrelin, and this is the body's hunger hormone. So whenever you're running on an empty stomach, your stomach will start to release ghrelin. Ghrelin then tells your brain it's time to eat. So ghrelin is the I'm hungry hormone, right? So when you feel full after your meal, that's when ghrelin stops releasing. So it's really important to see here that high levels of ghrelin are going to mean low levels of leptin. High levels of leptin are going to mean lower levels of ghrelin. So, whenever you have weight that you want to lose, this impacts ghrelin. So, just being overweight and obesity, studies show that whenever you are overweight or obese and you eat a meal, your ghrelin levels only decrease slightly just due to the lifestyle that you've been living. So, a normal response should be a complete stop in ghrelin releasing. However, this means that the body is not getting a strong enough response from ghrelin if it's not getting that complete stop. And this is what leads to overeating, right? So a lot of times if you feel like you just can't stop eating, there's actually something hormonal going on there. So when we look at this, you guys, one really cool thing is that whenever you start to fast, these hormones start to become in regular balance. You start to feel what it's like to actually truly be hungry again. And what this does is it creates a better balance for when you start to eat, you know what it's like to fully be full again. It's like we're restoring God's natural balance within our bodies with these hormones when we do fast. So one thing really cool too is that whenever you start to get normalized ghrelin levels again, right? Just being hungry, studies have shown actually that there's a few benefits from this. Your focus starts to increase, meaning like you can study better, you can potentially present better, you can teach better, you can work better, you're just more focused. Think about this from, a human design standpoint. God created us to where whenever we're hungry, maybe we're out in the wild, we are able to still have focus to hunt down animals and to scavenge for what we need to. It wouldn't make sense if we got stupider when we were hungry, because then we just end up starving and dying. So it actually increases your focus. I won't say you'll be able to do like the Matrix and avoid bullets with that level of focus, but you will just slightly feel almost like a caffeinated edge. And so when we start to look at this and getting just more normal levels of ghrelin in the body and just being okay with being hungry again, what this does is it actually stimulates human growth hormone in the body. So human growth hormone, if you guys don't know, has a lot of different benefits. It's something that a lot of bodybuilders will end up trying to put into their body exogenously, meaning not from their natural creation of it, and that's how they get really big. But when you actually tap into your body's natural HGH, you're not going to blow up like a bodybuilder, but you will have an ability to build muscle better. Your strength will increase in your workouts. Your skin will start to be clear. If you look at a lot of beauty products, especially for women, HGH or human growth hormone is a common ingredient in those. Your libido will go up, so your sex drive will increase. Your sleep quality will improve, and there's so many other benefits as well too. So this is a really cool thing when we start to look at that. If you can, use fasting to help out with ghrelin and leptin, you're going to get so many more benefits in hormones like HGH as well too. So let's look at how does intermittent fasting specifically affect ghrelin? Well, it allows our body to clear out of food for a long period of time, which allows us to actually have normalized levels of ghrelin. So when we look at this, we want to think of like our ancestors with human design. They likely needed high levels of ghrelin and the spike of increased HGH that comes with it to have the energy, mental alertness, and focus to be able to kill and hunt their prey. So we're kind of just remembering and going back to that, right? And there's nothing wrong with having breakfast in the morning if you're truly hungry, but oftentimes we don't really know what true hunger is. So this helps us to kind of tap back into that. And so I want to kind of ask the question of where should our leptin and ghrelin levels optimally be? Well, we want lower leptin levels to be able to limit overeating. And some might ask with this, don't we want high leptin levels to really tell us not to eat? Well, not exactly. It sounds true, but a little leptin goes a long way. And if we get too much, we become leptin resistant. So this is very similar to insulin within our body. We don't need a ton of it. We just need a little bit. It's kind of like when we put butter on our toast. We'd love to just slap all that on there, but sometimes we just need a little bit of butter on there, right? So what we don't want is constant lower high ghrelin levels. We want normalized ghrelin and leptin levels. So specifically when we look at ghrelin, this means we want high ghrelin levels while fasting to get the advantage of increased HGH and mental focus, and thus completely halt all ghrelin levels after eating. So that way we don't overeat. So when you look at how does fasting actually impact your hormones, you guys, we can see an amazing example of 3 hormones right here that have a powerful effect on the body. One of them gets you back into true hunger. Second one gets you back into true fullness and being able to stop eating. And the third one, with human growth hormone, allows you to get benefits like better sleep, more muscle mass, higher sex drive, all of these awesome things here. And fasting simply helps to benefit all of these, right? And, weight loss, being in a calorie deficit helps this as well too. But the reason why fasting is so effective for these is the fact that it makes being in a calorie deficit so simple. So guys, I hope this training was helpful for you guys just to kind of get a look at how these hormones impact you and even start to get a feel for as you go through your day and you start to get hungry, see if your focus is increased, right? Use that as a time to bang out some really productive work. Start to get a feel for as you start to fast more, are you actually getting fuller quicker? These are important things so where you can take what we're looking at here today and actually study it in your own lives. So take this one to the bank, y'all. Start applying it. I love you guys. We'll see you guys in the next video.